the person that they really wanted to lock up, right? We all know who they really wanted to lock up. It's the person that they really wanted to lock up. Give me a second.
Mr. Williams, do you understand that this is a non-negotiated?
All right, and do you want to break down for me what your recommended sentence on each count is?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is recommending on count 1, 5 years to serve. Count 56, 20 years to serve consecutively to count 1. Count 57, 5 years of probation to serve consecutively to count 56. Count 58, 10 years.
Okay. Y'all hear that little childish whatever that is in the background? While I was recording this, and I did not know this was happening, I was recording this on my laptop, right? And this is flat out ridiculous. I might have to go to the YouTube page. It's flat out ridiculous. My kids was sitting on me. So I guess their tablets was being picked up by the computer's microphone at the same time that I was screen recording this, which is ridiculous. I don't know why the microphone was even on. Like, this is just foolish. I recorded like an hour and a half worth of this thing, and it's effed up by the audio of my kids' tablets. This is ridiculous. So instead of doing that, let's just, damn. Really, I hope y'all can get through it, but let me see if we can just listen to the, all right, no, I don't want to throw nobody off. Let's see if let me go find the clip in the actual YouTube video. Because I don't want, and it wasn't even the kid's fault. It was my fault. I was using OBS to do the screen recording, and I guess I didn't realize that it was, I didn't realize that it was picking up the microphone. Shout out to the kids, though, you know what I mean? They was sitting on me. My daughter was like leaning on me. But that tablet noise right there was my son for sure. That was his tablet.
In criminal street gang act.
All right. Y'all coming up here to the podium.
Okay, so now we know that Thug is who they wanted, right? Thug is who they actually wanted. And if y'all notice, Thug is the one that they actually send Attorney Love up there to read the plea. Like, it's a non-negotiated plea, so now it's time to fight and argue. And they send the pit bull, they send Attorney Love, they send the one who does not waver, the one who wants the maximum punishment, the one who wants to put the biggest iron fist down and bury people. Y'all can tell what the state was offering Young Thug versus what the state offered everybody else. Completely different, because Miss Love is involved with this plea deal right here. Whoever else was handling everybody else's plea deals was not Miss Love. We can tell that. There's a guarantee.
Williams, Jeffery Williams.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
Are you the same Jeffrey Williams indicted in case number? Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, have we all signed the indictment, or are we going to do that afterwards? Because I don't have a copy of it.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't believe that we have.
We have not signed the indictment.
Okay. Probably be a good idea to do that.
Does anyone have a copy? Because you don't? Okay.
Where's the one we were using yesterday? We'll do that in just a minute. You can go ahead. The colloquy.
And Your Honor, we don't have the waiver form as well. Influence of any alcohol, drugs, or.
Anyone have a copy? Because you don't? Okay.
Where's the one we were using yesterday?
Influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medication.
No.
Is there any medication that you normally take that you have not been given today?
No.
How old are you?
33.
And how far have you gone in school?
9.
Say that one more time.
9.
Okay. Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
All right. Do you understand that you are charged with the following offenses? Conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, participation in criminal street gang activity, the leadership charge, participation in criminal street gang activity, violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act, 3 counts, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a machine gun. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. And do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges, and that if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you will continue to receive a jury trial?
Yes.
All right. And have you received this waiver of rights form that I hold in my hand from your attorney?
I see Chad saying we're going to be here all day. No, I'm not listening to this whole thing. I'm not listening to all of Brian Steele either. Brian Steele, Keith Adams, and Thug, they spoke for 45, like an hour. I'm not listening to all of anything. I just want us to hear what Love recommended as the time.
And reviewed it with your attorney?
Yes.
All right. And is this your signature on the bottom of this form?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorneys, Mr. Steele and Mr. Adams, about all of the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in indictment 22 SC 183-572, including any potential defenses?
Yes.
Do you need additional time to discuss this case with your attorneys?
No.
Are you satisfied with their services?
Yes.
Mr. Steele and Mr. Adams, do you on behalf of Mr. Williams waive a formal reading of this indictment?
Yes, Your Honor. We do.
And do you, Mr. Williams, waive any and all defects in this indictment, including any with respect to your name?
Yes.
Have you been arrested on these charges?
Yes.
The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you or your attorneys know of any outstanding warrants related to these charges?
Anyway?
Outstanding warrants related to any of the charges in the indictment?
No,
No.
I don't believe so either, Your Honor.
Okay. And I'm unaware of any as well, Your Honor.
I am as well.
Thank you. Have your attorneys advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each of the crimes that you are charged with?
Yes.
And each of the charges that you are pleading guilty to?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, with respect to the charges that Mr. Williams faces, count 1 carries a minimum charge of 5 years and a maximum charge of 20 years in prison, or up to a $25,000 fine, or both.
Isn't it a $15,000 fine, because wasn't it the version of the statute in effect at the time, or was that the same for RICO? Was RICO 25?
Yes, RICO was 25.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Count 56 carries a minimum sentence of 5 years in prison, a maximum of 20 years in prison, consecutive to any other sentence, with a fine of $10,000 to $15,000, or both.
Okay.
Count 57 carries a minimum sentence of 5 years in prison and a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Count 58 carries a minimum sentence of 1 and a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Count 59 carries a sentence range of 5 to 30 years in prison. Count 60 carries a sentence
Hang on,
range.
slow down just a second. All right, and that's for the amount of that drug that was found on 59, 5 to 30?
That's as a result of the charge itself, I believe, with intent to distribute.
I think that 59, Your Honor, is simple possession of cocaine. I have to look at the indictment to be sure.
I think that's 60.
Okay.
Let me look.
Okay.
This,
59
Here,
is
took
codeine,
Yes.
and 60 is cocaine.
Yes.
So,
Your Honor, it is with the intent to distribute, so my reading of the statute is that it carries the range of 5 to 30.
okay.
And Your Honor, also, as I have the indictment in my hand from Ms. Rosser, may I pass it to counsel for Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'll permit time
Go
for
ahead.
them to. Okay. Count 60 carries a range of 1 to 5 years in prison. Count 61 carries a mandatory 5 years consecutive to the underlying felony. Count 62 carries a sentence of 10 years consecutive for a total maximum exposure of 120 years in prison.
All right.
Were you aware of that, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Do you understand that neither the court nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole or the Department of Corrections or the Board of Pardons and Paroles, and that if you are sentenced to confinement in the Georgia Department of Corrections, no one can guarantee parole?
You can say yes.
Well,
She asked you, do you want to say that?
Oh, yes, yes,
guarantee
ma'am.
parole.
Your Honor, may I allow Mr. Williams time to finish signing the indictment?
Okay.
Your Honor, with permission, may I approach with a member of Mr. Williams' team?
You may.
Thank you. A non-negotiated plea of guilty, and that since your guilty plea is a blind plea or a non-negotiated plea, the state is making a recommendation of sentencing to the court, notwithstanding the fact that this is a blind plea. You understand that, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Williams, were you aware of the state's previous offer that was turned down prior to your making this non-negotiated plea?
Yes.
All right. And Your Honor, at this time, the state is making a recommendation of 45 years with 25 to serve in custody, followed by 20 on probation, subject to the special requirements of 1615 the gang statute.
All right, and do you want to break down for me what your recommended sentence on each count is?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is recommending on count 1, 5 years to serve. Count 56, 20 years to serve consecutively to count 1. Count 57, 5 years of probation to serve consecutively to count 56. Count 58, 10 years of probation to serve concurrently with count 57. Count 59, 5 years of probation to serve concurrently with count 57 and 58. Count 60, 5 years of probation concurrent with count 57, 58, and 59. Count 61, 5 years of probation consecutive to count 57. And count 62, 10 years of probation consecutive to count 61.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Williams, did you discuss the state's previous offer with your attorneys?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and so we're all clear that we're talking about the same thing. Can you put what the state's previous offer
And this is where they effed up the state.
was on the record for me, please?
I can, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The state's previous offer was a total of 43 years with 20 years, 5 years to serve on count 56, commuted to time served, followed by 15 years on probation. On count 58, the sentence was 10 years to serve in the Georgia Department of Corrections, consecutive to count 56. Count 59 was 3 years to serve in the Georgia Department of Corrections, consecutive to counts 56 and 58. Count 60 was 5 years to serve in the Georgia Department of Corrections, consecutive to counts 56, 58, and 59. Count 61 was 5 years to serve in the Georgia Department of Corrections, consecutive to counts 56, 58, 59, and 60.
I got you, Chaz.
Was that the entirety of what the sentence was?
No, Your Honor,
I mean, I know
still
there were
reading.
special conditions, so y'all were
There
going
are.
to null pros,
We-
what,
yeah,
1
yeah.
and 62?
Yes, as part
Okay.
of the recommended sentence, in exchange for the defendant agreeing to the special conditions that we asked the court to impose, the state was willing to null pros count 1, count 57, and count 62.
Okay, and then all of that consecutive to the probation, that was going to be what we call backloaded, and what were y'all proposing with regard to that, since it was going to follow the probated sentence?
The total sentence was 43 years to serve, with the first 5 years in prison commuted to time served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed by 23 years in prison, which would have been served in confinement, except that if defendant had complied with the special conditions of probation imposed as part of this sentence, the backloaded portion of defendant's sentence would have been commuted. However, should defendant had violated any special condition of probation within the first 15 years of his sentence, his probated sentence would have immediately been revoked, and he would have been required to serve the entire remainder of his sentence confined to the Georgia Department of Corrections.
All right, so as long as he had successfully completed his 15 years of probation, the 23 years that was going to follow it was going to be commuted to time served as long as his probation was successful, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the special, would the court like for us to?
No, I was really more interested in the length of sentence and what y'all had, and I know you didn't reach. You are successful in completing your 15.
I believe it is,
Established.
And here's some of the evidence. And ask that if you feel that there is anything within the state's proposal that might be appropriate in terms of the sentence for Mr. Williams, that the court please feel free to do that. There's nothing that he is...
I ain't even going to get into that.
that he puts himself before the court. And I think 2.5 years sitting, going through this process, challenging the process that candidly was needed.
I'm a smart guy. I'm a good guy, and
All right, so let's just listen to what Thug said, then we'll listen to what the judge said.
really got a good heart. You know, I find myself in a lot of stuff because I was just nice or cool, you know, and I understand that you can't be that way when you reach a certain height because it could end bad. And it don't really have to have nothing to do with you, but it could end bad and it could, you know, fall on you. And I know the choice is yours, it's up to you. And I hope that you allow me to go home today and just trust in me to just do the right thing and never see you again unless it's at a, you know, bar in the future or something. Just out of this type of situation, I promise you I won't ever be in this type of situation again. I'm going away. I've learned from my mistakes. You know, I come from nothing and I've made something and I didn't take full advantage of it. I'm sorry. Through these last 2.5 years of my life, you are really, truly, honestly, the best thing that has happened to me because you made everything fair for me and everybody involved. On both sides, you know. I'm sorry to the sheriff, you know, everybody for just having to put extra time in. I know y'all got paid more money, but I'm sorry for y'all having to put this extra time in to be away from y'all family, and I just hope that you find it in your heart to allow me to go home and be with my family and just do better as a person. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I am. I know the heights I've reached. I know the impact I got on people, period, in the community, all people. I learned that late, like these past 2 or 3 years of my life, I kind of learned that late. And maybe it was because I was, probably on drugs or anything, I don't know. But I have came to my senses and I understand what I mean to this world. But I am a good guy, I don't mind doing stuff like, free shows, and I always did that. I did free shows and gave it to single parents, millions of dollars. I made $1.8 million on a free show, and I gave it all to single parent charity. And I did like 2 or 3 shows that made like $700,000 a piece, and I gave it to the breast cancer organization. Like, I do things like I put millions of dollars back into my community for real. I really did. I did more than anybody ever did from my side, But I understand, rap lyrics. I understand how it could be twisted. I understand what it could do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you I'm 100% changing that. It's just, I'm older, I'm grown now, and it's just like, I'm smarter. It's more things to rap about. Like, I've experienced a lot of good things. I experienced more bad things, but I experienced a lot of good things too. And anyway, I can go forever.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the...
How y'all feel about Thug's speech? I mess with it. Because the goal of this type of thing, like when you get a chance to talk in front of the judge before you get sentenced, the goal of this is to come off as the best person possible, to plead your case, to show that you have changed, that your mind has changed, that you accept, first you accept responsibility for what you was a part of and what you just pled guilty to. That's the first thing that they're really looking for and listening for. A lot of people think that that's just something that happens in the parole hearing, but the judge, when you're about to get sentenced, you got to be saying sorry. He said sorry to everybody. He apologized. He even, he brought his performer side out. He's playing with the whole crowd, letting the deputies know, hey, I apologize to y'all. I know y'all got paid more money, but I apologize to y'all. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the victims. I apologize to everybody involved in this case. Everybody having to dedicate so much of their time to this case, to moving me around as a high profile inmate. He didn't say that, but he did what a professional performer would do. He did not say the wrong thing at all. When he told Judge Whitaker, over the last 2.5 years, you're the best thing that happened in my life because you gave us a fair trial. And this is where he won at. He said both sides. He said, yo, you making it fair for the state and you making it fair for us. And he got choked up. Did you hear the choke up? I mean, this is Emmy level stuff right here that we're dealing with. This is Oscar worthy, what he did up there. He got choked up when he told this lady she was the best thing to happen in his life in the last 2.5 years. I mean, give that man his Emmy. Give him his Emmy. You understand? And I'm not saying that he's lying. I'm saying that he did what he does as a professional performer. And it worked. And it was amazing. It was an amazing show of humility. You understand what I'm saying? It was an amazing show, and Whitaker ate it up. And Brian Steele did an amazing job before that. I didn't play it because he talked forever. I'm telling y'all, he talked forever. Brian Steele said, hey, they have... Jasmine, I'm not trying to disrespect him. I'm not calling it a performance as if it was fake. I'm saying he had to perform, whether we want to call it that or not. He had to put on a show because he had to really, really, really demonstrate that his mind has been changed by this experience. Right? I'm not saying he was lying. Y'all got to listen to the words I'm saying. I'm not trying to say he's lying. I'm saying that he had to sell the fact that he has really changed and his mind has really been altered by the situation and that he really accepts responsibility. Because sometimes you can say, hey, judge, I accept responsibility, but they don't believe nothing that you say because you sound like you're not convincing enough, right? But he was convincing enough. He was thoughtful because he looked around the courtroom and pointed out everybody he was apologizing to in the moment. He took responsibility for what rap is doing to the minds of the people and said, I got a lot better things I can rap about anyway. So I'm not even going to rap about that stuff no more. You got to understand, when I say performance, I mean, he did what he had to do to get his message across. If they put me up there and told me, yo, you got to say, convince these people, I'm terrible at convincing people that I'm emotionally different. I'm not good at it at all. I would have failed. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not good at it at all. He's very good at it because that's what he do for a living. He's a performer. That's what I mean when I say performance. He sold that thing, and Whitaker went for it. The John Lennon thing really got to her.
You do realize how much of an impact you have on people. I mean, it's past your neighborhood. It's worldwide, especially young people. And having come up from where you came up from and living in and around that, you know that gangs are damaging to our community. And it may be that a whole lot of rap music and the rap industry is, I mean, honestly, it sounds like a modern day version of kind of WWE wrestling that used to be on television, where people would just get up and posture and act like they hated each other. And it may be that that's a lot of what is going on in the music industry with rap. But whether it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who...
Body language again. Love and Hilton are writing notes to each other. When they heard some of the stuff, when they heard the beginning of Whitaker's, I said, Love and Hilton are writing notes to each other. When they heard the beginning of how Whitaker started out her speech, they knew they was cooked. They knew it already. They started writing notes to each other. Love had her hand in her head, like they knew it. Immediately, they already knew it.
who think, this is cool, this is what I want to do, look at him, he's a millionaire. I can do that by being, you know, a gangster in the streets. And that's not true. What you're likely to have happen to you if you're a gangster in the streets is you get shot, you get killed, or you get thrown in prison. And those are, you know, by far the most likely outcomes. And, you know, you've been in here watching the trial, and you've seen the pictures of Mr. Ryan posing with a gun as big as he is at 15 years old and going out and shooting and killing another teenager. And that's what gangs do, and that's unfortunately a lot of what rap music does. And if you are a modern day John Lennon, you know, I mean, he might have rapped too in this day and age. I don't know, but I know you're talented, and even if you choose to continue to rap, you need to try to use your influence to let kids know that that is not the way to go, and that there are ways out of poverty besides hooking up with the powerful guy at the end of the street selling drugs. And, you know, I know that happens for protection sometimes, but a much better way would be getting an education and setting, you know, hanging around with people who set a good example. And you be one of those people that sets a good example. I mean, all right, so that's my high horse on that. I could also go on. But I want you to try to be more of the solution and less of the problem. All right? All right, so it is not lost.
Now, this is where the state, this is like Love closed her computer. She knew she was done. It was a wrap. We might as well just get up and get ready to go to the car, because she know what the judge's about to say.
On the court that the state had they been able to come to agreement on certain special conditions, was willing to entirely dismiss the RICO count, was willing to entirely dismiss one of the gang counts, and was willing to entirely dismiss this, machine gun count. Was willing to give a sentence that permitted Mr. Williams to walk out of the door today, and therefore does not seem to be particularly worried that Mr. Williams, if on the streets, would be a danger to society. I'm taking that into consideration in crafting my sentence. And in permitting a NOLO plea to the RICO count and one of the two gang counts, I would not be permitting the NOLO to the one if you were not pleading guilty to at least one of them. But you are, and y'all admit a factual basis for the counts that you are pleading guilty to. I find there to be a factual basis for those counts.
Okay, essentially, she listed so many different things. Like Thug has to, he's gonna go home. He went home last night or whatever, right? He's gonna get 15 years solid of probation. He has to stay out of Fulton County for 10 years. He has to do monitored probation for the first half of his probation, so that's 7.5 years. He has to come for every year of his probation. He has to do 100 hours of community service per year. For every year he's on probation, he has to do 4 performances or demonstrations that are anti-gang, anti-gun violence. He has to do 4 of those every year, and the time he spends on that can be counted towards his community services, 100 hours per year. He can't be on drugs. He has to waive his Fourth Amendment right. Was it 4th or 14th Amendment right? Search and seizure. I think that's the 4th Amendment, right? He has to waive that right for the entirety of his time on probation. That's the first time I heard anybody say that in one of these plea deals. They told him he can't rap about, have any merch, anything that's alluding to any gangs, right? So they said, okay, thank y'all for that. His 4th Amendment right, and I should have known that because the 14th is dealing with the rights of free people and the rights. So the 4th Amendment right, Thug has to submit at any time to random searches of his property, his person, or any vehicles that he's in at any point during the time he's on probation, and he has to waive his right. He doesn't have due process. They don't have to get a search warrant, anything like that. They can roll up on him and stop and frisk him at any moment to make sure he doesn't have drugs on him, illegal firearms, or any gang paraphernalia or gang merchandise. When he uses YSL, it has to be stoner, and I'm guessing he's going to have to make it very clear that it means Young Stoner Life with the TM next to it saying trademark. So he can't be on Cleveland Avenue. He can't come to his home. Actually, he can't come into Metro Atlanta at all unless he's coming for a funeral, a wedding, a graduation, or extreme medical circumstances for one of his immediate family. The judge told him, if you don't know what Metro Atlanta is, get on the U.S. Census Bureau and look at what they define as Metro Atlanta. When you talk about the Census Bureau and business, official business, we would talk about the Census Bureau and we talk about metro areas. They're talking about the entire statistical reporting area, and that is extremely large. The entire census statistical reporting area for Atlanta is extremely large. They're telling him you can't be anywhere in that. You could be in Georgia, but you better go somewhere else in Georgia. But he's already saying, I'm leaving. I'm going to transfer my probation. Brian Steele said, can we transfer the probation? The judge said, yeah, we can do that as long as wherever you transfer to makes it so that you can adhere to all of these stipulations in your probation. Now, I'm going to tell you all about transferring probation. When you want to transfer your probation, what it's called is Karana Hosey, that's my mom. She said it's 19 counties. When you transfer your probation, right, it's called an interstate compact. You want to go from one state to the next. Not only does your probation center, wherever you're on probation at, they have to agree to it, the place that you're trying to transfer to also has to agree to it. And if they feel like they don't have the resources, if they don't feel like they have the resources to take on an offender like you, they don't have to accept it. They can say no. And it's not immediate either. Most of the time, I don't know how they're going to handle Young Thug, but it's normally not immediate. Normally, you want to start your interstate compact process before you even get out of jail. You want to start that way ahead of time, right? So, it takes time. And then you have to have, so he does have residences in other places. So he's going to have proof of address. He's going to have to have like, all right, we got to make sure it's secure over there. We got to make sure there's nobody using drugs over there. If they accept it, then he'll be able to go. I'm assuming he's going to go to California where he owns property, right? So when they say something about just transferring probation, it's not as simple as just saying, all right, I'm about to go somewhere else and be on probation. It's an agreement that all the states in America, and most of the states in America, have between each other that says we will transfer one offender to the next offender to be on probation in this state. I also have experience with that. I know about that. So, yeah, I heard somebody say the probation officer was in court yesterday. I've never heard of anybody having a probation officer already before they even get sentenced. That don't even make sense. So there might have been somebody from the probation office there, but I doubt that it was it could have been whoever's going to be his probation officer, but he hasn't been assigned yet. He hasn't even checked in yet. He has 48 hours to show up and check in. That's when they'll give him his probation officer. But yeah, so just keep in mind that them saying that he can transfer to a new place does not mean he's automatically going somewhere else. He has to wait until it gets approved, and it's not instant at all. They have to approve it. He has a whole lot of stipulations. One of them being wherever he moves to, they're going to have to agree that he can move around freely, because he can move to California, get on probation, and the probation people out there could say, you can't go nowhere. You have to follow their guidelines. It's not about Fulton County anymore. It's about whatever Los Angeles County says you have to do. If they tell you, no, you can't travel outside the country, that's what you have to live with. So you got to be careful where you transfer to. They don't have to take anything. You know what I'm saying? No, he has 48 hours to report to probation. But all right, so that's what that is. Interstate compact is not instant. He'll be here until that gets approved. Now, it got much sicker. Right now, this is a major win for Young Thug. I know Brian Still's like, hey, I didn't want to do this, but my client, he's the one sitting in here. He doesn't want to sit another day. He wants to go home to his family, his kids. He's sick, all this type of stuff. I also, I'm a little skeptical. I'm a skeptic. I also think Brian Still was putting on a little bit of, he was putting on because he didn't want it to feel like they just got over on the state. He wanted it to feel like this is a struggle for us, and we just had to fight, and we took the deal. I told him I wanted to take it to the verdict. But he just insisted on, he put it and said like Young Thug is the one that made this wise decision to take accountability for this. You know what I'm saying? Because, Brian Still is a case destroyer. He destroys cases. I know a lot of people just getting hip to him. But if you go to Brian Still's website, which needs to be redone, I told Brian Still a long time ago, if you need somebody to redo your website, get with me. I'll redo it for you. Like, you just can't. Your website is just terrible. Anyway, if you go to his website, you will see all of the cases that he has worked on recently. Brian's I'm talking about they caught a man with child porn on their computer. Brian Still got him off. I don't know how Brian Still does the stuff that he does. You know what I'm saying? He just is crazy. He's a crazy lawyer. He's fiery. He'll yell at the judge if he got to. You understand what I'm saying? He went to war with Glanville up in there. You understand what I'm saying? When Glanville told him you got to go into custody, you know what he said? Hey, Glanville, can I be cellmates with my client? Because we're going to work on this case while I'm in there. They don't make lawyers like Brian Still. I don't even know where he came from. You understand what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. But then things got dark.